my name is Danielle Sicard and I'm the town clerk here in Easton. I'm here at Oliver Ames High School to talk to you about what you need to know before you go to the polls and vote on Election Day. First, if you're not interested in going to the polls and you'd rather have a ballot mailed to you, you can do so by submitting an application to get a ballot mailed to you. That application can be found at www.easton.ma.us/votebymail.pdf. Word of caution, please make sure that we receive that application at least 2 weeks prior to the election date in order for you to actually receive the ballot in time to return it to us in time. You can email those applications also to votebymail@easton.ma.us. Everything that I'm going to go through with you as I walk you through the polling location, this public service announcement can be found at www.easton.ma.us/knowbeforeyougo.pdf. So we've had to make a lot of changes to the layout here at Oliver Ames High School in order to provide proper social distancing under the pandemic circumstances. And so we are using 2 gyms in order to get all of our precincts in. So if you vote in precinct 1, 2, or 6, you're going to be voting in the new gym. And if you vote in precinct 3, 4, and 5, you're going to be voting in the old gym. So what are voters' options for parking? You can either utilize the Moscato Stadium field parking lot, or you can use the students' main parking lot. So the entrance for every voter, no matter which precinct you are in, is this main entrance behind me, the main entrance to the gymnasiums. And I'm going to walk you through the rest of our polling location to provide you with some information. So once you've made it through the double doors, going in the right doors based on your precinct number, you're going to come into here and you're going to follow the lines to get into the correct gyms. You'll see that along the floor that there are markers every 6 foot so that you can stay 6 feet and keep the social distancing that's required. And I will note that you're able to stay with your family unit in each one of those until you actually get to the check-in. And what I mean by family unit is anybody within your household or that you're not social distancing from can stay on each of those markers until you get to the gym doors. So once you've made it to the correct gym entrance, there's a greeter there at the door who is going to give you permission and direct you to your precinct. Just a note, as I had mentioned, when you're in the hall, you can be standing on the separators with your family unit. However, once you get into the gymnasium and you're approaching the check-in table, it must be only one voter at a time that approaches the check-in table. You'll see that we have plexiglass anywhere in the voting location that has a face-to-face contact with one of our voters and with an election worker. We have put this safety glass for your protection and theirs. A couple of notes when you get to check-in. First, you're going to be required to provide the check-in person with some information, and it needs to be in a particular order. Please give them your last name, then your first name, and then your address. And by law, that election worker must repeat that information to you to verify that they've checked in the correct voter. We do recommend that you bring an ID with you to the polls. We don't ask for IDs for that purposes, but unless you are an inactive voter. Inactive voters are those who do not return their census forms to us, and they would be flagged and required to show an ID. An ID can be anything as long as it has your name and your address as listed on the voting list. I will also note that there is a box here of pens. These are clean, sanitized pens, and you are more than welcome to take that with you. There's a box at checkout. You then can return it there. If you're more interested in bringing your own pen from home, that's fine. Please make sure that it's a black or a blue only felt marker. Thank you. So once you've received your ballot, you're going to go into one of our voting booths. The voting booths are cleaned periodically throughout the day, and once you are inside your voting booth, you'll notice that there is a reminder in here that you must mark your ballot, completely filling in the oval. Please be sure not to use check marks or X's, as the machine will not read your ballot in that fashion. I'd also like to point out that your ballots cannot get wet. If they do, they're going to jam our tabulating machines. And so depending on the weather, or whether or not you're using hand sanitizer or you've just washed your hands, in either of those scenarios, please be very careful to make sure that your ballot does not get wet. And then you can approach the checkout once you've marked your ballot. So once you've completed marking your ballot, you're going to proceed to the far end for the checkout. You'll see that there are markers on the floor, just as there was in check-in, to keep the social distancing of 6 foot between you and all the other voters. Once you get to the table, you'll also see that, once again, we have plexiglass to protect you and the workers on election day. There is a bin here for you to drop your pens. If you borrowed one, please drop it in here. And once again, at the check-out table, you're going to give the same information that you did at check-in in the same order. They will once again need to repeat that information. It is your last name, your first name, and then your address. From there, you can proceed to the ballot box. When you're at the checkout station, whether you're in front of the checkout worker or the ballot box, only one person at a time should be in front of them. You get to the ballot box, you want to verify that the screen on the tabulator says system ready. Once your ballot has gone through, you would then want to verify that the ballot, it says ballot cast on the LCD screen on the tabulator. And from there, you would exit at the far end of the gymnasium. So thank you for taking a walk through the polling location with me so that you're better prepared on election day. There's been a lot of information here that I've reviewed, and you can find that information on our website at www.easton.ma.us/knowbeforeyougo.pdf. A quick review of some of the things that we have discussed. All voters are entering here from the atrium gymnasium entrance now and exiting from the gym doors that bring you out to the student parking. You should know your precinct because we're using 2 gyms. You can find that information again on our website at www.easton.ma.us/whatsmyprecinct.pdf. When you're here at the polls, please be sure that you're wearing a face covering. You can also bring a pen, make sure it's black or blue, or you can borrow one that we provide for you. Also, you should bring an ID with you just in case you are flagged and required to show it. When you're here at the polls, we recommend that you don't touch your face and that you maintain social distancing of 6 feet from anyone else that's not in your family unit. And then please be sure that your ballot does not get wet, as that will cause some issues with the ballot box jamming. If you'd like additional information on this process, I would recommend that you go to the Secretary of State's website at www.sec.ma.us/voter registration search. That will tell you whether you're a registered voter, what your precinct is, and whether you're active or not. If you're an inactive voter, then you would need to make sure you had an ID with you. One final thing, if you're interested in taking a look at sample ballots so that you can be quick when you're here at the polls, you can find that information on the Town of Easton's website under Elections. And finally, if you've been exposed to the coronavirus leading up to the week prior to the election, you or somebody in your house is quarantined or isolated, we ask that you don't come to the polls. Instead, give us a call and we can walk you through the process in order to get a ballot that you can designate to somebody else to pick up for you. You can get in touch with us at Town Clerk's Office at easton.ma.us for that information. Thank you for your time today and stay well.